Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Dan Schierl of D-Neenah is a Democratic candidate in the 55th Assembly District. Dan, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Thank you for having me here.
You, on your campaign website, you talk about campaign finance reform as a big issue. Can you explain why?
Well, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, my wife and I decided to get very active in our political arena, and that was to try and overturn Citizens United. So we went door to door in Neenah, Menasha, New London, and some of the outlying areas, and we put a question on the November ballot stating, is similar to, do we have to try and get the money out of political system to have a voice again? And those people in those areas, overwhelmingly, 70 and 80%, agreed we should do that. And this was a statewide thing going on, and it's still going on to this day. And it's up to 90% of the people in some areas agreed we should try and get the Citizens United overturned. So when we did it and we got the results, we brought it to our legislators, and it was all up and down the ticket we did this, and they pretty much said it doesn't really matter because it's a non-binding issue. And that's not really right. If the people are telling you there's something wrong with our political system, I think it's our legislators' duty to listen to what's going on.
Would you consider this your top issue, Dan?
I would think this is a top issue, and it spawned a group called Blue Jean Nation, and it was founded by Mike McCabe,
right,
who had to run for governor and lost, but that was okay. It put his name in a Blue Jean thing out there, and that's to get politically active people like myself that wear common blue jeans to get elected to our government on little or no money. Because with all that big money, if you accept that big money in your campaigns, you will be beholden to those people that gave you all that money. And that's how I feel we need to change our political system that way.
Because of these deep beliefs, what limitations are you putting on who can give to your own campaign?
I'm only accepting small donations, and I think it's a $200 limit. But one guy snuck a $250 limit in there, so I just let that one go. But I'm not accepting any more than $200 from each individual, or I'm not accepting big money from corporations or unions, because I think those are entities that will try to influence me.
On your website, you talk about health care. How do we preserve and maybe expand health care in the rural areas, Dan? Your thought?
The rural areas, I think not so much in this area, District 55, but you get higher up in the upper districts. I think they have a problem with health care, hospitals and doctors, keeping those people up there, because it's such a poor, you're going to have a poor selection of people up there. Mm-hmm. And so I think we need, as a state, it's our right, and we should be providing services for all health care in the whole state.
So you believe in a universal health care system?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think we need to do that.
Does state government have a role in recruiting and retaining doctors, nurses, and other medical professionals?
If it's not being done on the open market, then yes. I think we need to somehow get people that are willing to go up into places that are hard to do stuff, to incentives to go up there. I think those people have the same rights as you and I here in a bigger city of Green Bay.
Mm. The state government and Delta Dental are piloting a program that helps clinics provide dental care, yep, for the low income. Should this be a priority in the next Medicaid budget?
I believe so, and I'll tell you why. I think your dental, your health care, and eye vision, those are all health care issues. Those should not be those should be a right to have that services and not a privilege. Dental health care is important for your physical health too, so I believe we should be doing something.
AARP estimates that 578,000 Wisconsin residents are caregivers, providing care for a family member or a neighbor or a loved one. Would you support laws or regulations that call for hospitals to recognize family caregivers when their loved ones are hospitalized? Is this an issue that you've studied at all?
I have not studied.
have
Can
not
you elaborate on it, maybe?
Well, it may not be fair if you haven't really studied the issue. So
Okay.
we'll move on to other issues.
Sure.
The state assembly that you want to join has passed tax benefits, tax breaks for Foxconn. It's now the law. The state assembly has voted to give Foxconn-like tax breaks to Kimberly-Clark. When should state government help private companies?
You know, I think we do have a option to help those companies, but not at the expense of working people. And right now we are telling our people that welfare is bad. Well, to me, you have corporate welfare going on in our state right now, and even our country. We are subsidizing jobs at my expense and taxpayers' expense, and I don't think that's quite right. And I want to elaborate. About 20 years ago, I was at this Blue-Green Alliance, and that's for green energy. And they were saying back 20 years ago, at least, that manufacturing jobs were going to be disappearing, and we would become a service industry job. And we are headed that way. Our companies are disappearing. Why aren't we taking those green energy jobs that they said would be good jobs? Those are going to be good paying jobs. They're going to be good for the environment. Those are the jobs that I think we should be subsidizing if we're going to subsidize any. That's, I think, where do you draw the line at a big company, a little company? I just met a mom and pop. She closed up shop. She couldn't make it. And why don't we subsidize her? I mean, where's the line?
Local governments have been living with levy limits for about 14 years. Some local government leaders say that hurts their ability to provide local services. Levy limits, keep them, loosen them, get rid of them?
I would definitely say we need to loosen them. I don't know about getting rid of them totally. Where I live out in a rural area, those townships, they don't have the money to fix our roads, to fix our ditches for drainage. I was out to my town board meetings a few times, and I questioned them, and they said, we just don't have the money. And these construction projects, or whatever you want to call them, they've been on hold for 4 or 5 years already. So I think we need to do something, and I think both parties need to be looking at this as an overall issue.
You just mentioned local roads. There's a gridlock and impasse in the Capitol on how we pay for state highways, bridges, construction, and maintenance. How would you pay for our highway future?
Well, there's many ways you can go. You could ignore it, and that's not going to work, because right now I believe we're paying about 25% of our funds for borrowed money that we did our construction loans. And to me, that's unacceptable. Where does it stop? Where does it end? I mean, that money is just going to keep going up and up and up. I would think we should look at ways to cut spending. There's got to be pork programs within our state that would free up stuff. I think we should look at our corporate welfare stuff that we're doing. I think you could loosen up a lot of money there. And I wouldn't even be opposed to looking at a possible small gas tax. I think we haven't had one for many years, and our roads are pretty much done.
When people in the Capitol mention the possibility of setting up a tolling system, how do you feel about that?
I'm going to just say no.
Say no.
I'm very much against privatization of many things, and roads would be one of them. Schools would be one of them. Healthcare is another one. Police, fire. I mean, those are all basic necessities. And when you start privatizing, what are you going to do? You're going to make profits. Everything seems to be about profit. Our government is saying the best way to make things is profit. Well, you know what? Pretty soon you're going to privatize stuff out of reach of poor and middle class people.
The state government has set aside $100 million for school safety grants. Is it enough, or do we need new gun laws?
I think we need to do a combination of things. I think we should go back to a waiting period. I think that just makes common sense. I think we need to look at mental health issues, because I think those kids and people coming into our schools, they're not being caught by the system, and they have issues going on, and I think they just snap. And I think we need to also, the media plays up this so big, I think it causes a lot of problems, and it glorifies it. And I think we need to stop doing that. So those are issues that I would think we should talk about.
The current state budget has a significant increase in state aid for K-12 public schools. Some local school district administrators and superintendents say, hey, we need another big increase in the next state budget. Do you think we do?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. They took so much money out of the Act 10, and they were slowly putting it back. I did some research on it. They were putting it back and putting it back. But if it was up to today's standards, their shortfall, I think, is almost close to $500 million. And I might be wrong, but it's pretty close to that. So we didn't really refund all that money back. And where did that money go? I'd like to know where it all went.
The part of this debate on K-12 is the expansion of voucher and choice programs, which started out in Milwaukee, now Racine, and now it's statewide. What's your position on the voucher, the choice program?
The vouchers, I think, was a big mistake. I think they're taking money from a public stance, and they're privatizing that money, and they're putting money in, but that money is going right out the back door to these private institutions. And where does that leave our public schools? They're leaving the public schools, I think, to fail. And when they failure, they're going to say, well, look, we did everything we could. We give them as much money as they want, but they're not telling you they're backdooring the money for voucher systems. So I think you need to separate those as public and private, the way it used to be. And if they need some kind of tax breaks for the private, well, maybe we should look at something like that. But to take the funds out of our school system, I think, is very wrong.
The debate over prisons, some Democratic candidates for governor said we could cut our prison population by up to a half over a few years. We have 2 prisons in Wisconsin that were built in the 1800s. Do we need a new state prison?
I think we probably need to look at, yes, I think we probably do need to look at that, but I also think we need to look at why we have such huge prisons in our population. Is it nonviolent offenses? Is it drug-related offenses that are nonviolent? I mean, those people were locking up at a pretty good cost to us. And if they seem to want to privatize that industry too. So when you privatize it, what do? You make it a business and you're making it profitable. If it's not profitable, then it won't work. So I think there's incarceration rates they're overdone. I mean, we need to look at other states in like Minnesota. They have a lower incarceration rate than Wisconsin. Why? Why don't we follow that example? So I think we do. Those are old prisons. I think we probably do need to do something with them very soon.
The UW system budget, we've had a freeze on resident undergraduate tuition for 6 years. The governor would like to extend that freeze to a 7th and 8th year. How do you feel about the freeze?
I guess I'm not real super aware of the freeze or how it works. And I know years and years ago we had a freeze. I forget which under governor. And it seemed to work a little bit, but when you freeze those, you're freezing what you can teach. I mean, I think we're cutting core classes out of our universities. And our universities, I think, are starting to not be as good as they used to be years ago. We don't fund our students enough. I remember my wife telling me years ago when she was going to college at Green Bay that she had a pretty good chunk of change from the state to go to school. And she didn't come out with that huge debt we are experiencing now of people coming out with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 and more. And I'm not saying that's not part of some of their fault, because some of it you have to realize you could do ways to offset those costs. But somehow we need to look at our school systems, and that I would like to push more for technical college, because I think right now in this day and age, we have more jobs than the tech can push out. Like trades. I was in the trades a long time, and those trades are hurting, and those are good paying jobs. So I think we need to look at our overall system of our education system and make it affordable for all classes of people. rich, middle, poor. I think we're outpricing the middle right now. So
Your campaign website also calls for a living wage. Could you be more specific? Are you saying we should raise our minimum wage, and if so, to what?
Yes, I think we need to raise our minimum wage. Everybody says $15 is a living wage, but really, in reality, $15 is not a really living wage, because when I was working in a factory, I was making more than that. And if you're working $15 alone, you're probably going to be okay. And you got a wife that works, you're probably going to be okay. But when you start adding kids, kids cost a lot of money. And when $15 isn't going to cover the cost of rent or house payments or a car, kids going to school, new clothes. I mean, the list is on and on. I can tell you, I've met some teachers in Oshkosh, and they were so proud. They had a room about the size of this, and they were so proud they were getting donations from businesses, individuals, for paper, pens, clothing, and I thought to myself, and I was really quiet, and I thought, I left that meeting and I thought, since when did we become a GoFundMe school system? And that's how bad it is, I think it is out there.
What's your position on legalizing recreational and medical marijuana?
Medical marijuana, I support that 100%. I know somebody that's taking it illegally for a very aggressive brain tumor, and she actually is alive 9 months past where she said they told her she was going to die, and she's still alive, and she's looking good. She's active. So I think there's something going on there, and I think everyone should have the right to that if you are given the death sentence. And aggressive brain tumor, that's pretty much a death sentence. I can tell you other stories where people I've talked to knocking doors where they said, I'm only taking CBD oil, which I think is legal now. They kind of up and down this. But they were taking the CBD oil, no other treatments, and she had a 4th stage cancer in her stomach, and a year later she was pronounced cancer-free. So why don't we do the natural way and try it? I mean, if you were going to die, I sure want that opportunity without having a door knocked down and say, hey, we're taking you to jail because of this. And on the flip side of the recreational side, I would definitely lean towards it and promote it. And that would be because the recreational part, if you don't recreationalize it, who's going to get a hold of that? Big Pharma. Pharma's going to say, they're already doing it, they're making synthetic marijuana. And why would I want to take something synthetic that I have no idea what's in there, and when I could do something that's naturally grown? So that's one reason. The other reason is we could take that tax base and use it to fix up our roads, our schools. Colorado is doing that right now. I think they took, I think it was about $200 million, and they dumped it in their school system. Well, what does that do? That drives down taxes for everyone in the state. No one likes to pay taxes, including myself. So I think those are very important issues that we should put on the table and talk about.
Now, last question. You want to highlight differences with you and your the incumbent that you're challenging?
I think it's the money. I think everything falls on money. The money is, it's not free speech. And everybody's saying, well, I shouldn't say everybody, there's a lot of people that are saying money is free speech. And that's where we have to overturn Citizens United. And I want to say one thing. I have to say this because my son told me when I first started running, he says, Dad, when you talk to people, it doesn't have nothing to do with a campaign kind of, but it says, when you talk to people, you tell them labels are for boxes, files, and folders, not for people. For when we label something, you're a Democrat, you go over there, you're a Republican, you go over there, you're black, you go over there. And what do? We separate them, we divide them, and we don't need to be divided anymore. What we need to do is pull people in and say, you know what, we disagree on things, and that's okay, but there's some things in this state, in this country, that we should all agree on. Healthcare, schools, money out of politics. So those are issues that are nonpartisan, and we should all be on board with that. So that's my whole campaign is pretty much on that.
Thank you. Dan
Thank you.
Schierl of D-Neenah is a Democratic candidate in the 55th Assembly District. The election is November 6th. Dan, thanks for talking to WisconsinEye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.